Hey guys, it's Jimmy Bremner and Dexter, the boy, and we're back on the urban trail. Um, did a post a couple weeks ago and showed some tools and said old school was the caption on it. And sometimes I like to get away from the tactical knives and tools and things like that. So some of you are pretty good. You guessed Russell's knife. Again, issued to Canadian paratroopers, have been for a long, long time, since the 60s. Outstanding tool. Beside that, I had a Granddaddy Barlow knife. About a 4-inch blade on it, sharp. It's an offshore brand, but the quality, I have to tell you, is actually pretty good. And as I said, I'm nostalgic, and it's a slip joint, you know. But it's just nice to have something different than the tactical knives. And this is really old. This is probably 40 years old, if not more. I've had it since I was a kid, so it's probably more than 40 years old. And it's actually an electrician's knife. It is a slip joint, really good locks where it needs to. And it does have a locking blade on it. But again, I like the wooden handles and the feel of it. This is a carbon steel knife, so I can get a spark off it should I need to. And then I also showed you a hatchet. So let's talk about hatchets and axes and tomahawks and such. If you want to see somebody get hurt, give them an axe, okay? They are totally unforgiving, and it can mean anything from a mechanical injury to an arterial bleed to an amputation. And in fact, I just read an article on the series Alone where they take a person, they put him down in a remote destination, they pick one tool, and this individual picked an axe, and he was off the show in less than a day as a result of an injury from that tool. So if you're not experienced with an axe, okay, and you don't have your PPE on, you probably shouldn't be using one. If you had to, with an axe, I'm talking full length axe, if you had to, get on your knees, because that way it can't pass through and hit you in the lower legs, you know, your feet and such. So hatchet. What you have to understand is that any adventure that you go on can turn into a survival situation. And the reason I like this particular hatchet, for a couple of reasons, it has a nice leather grips on it, but it's full tang. It's fully made of stainless steel. It's a company called Estwing. This is absolutely impossible to break. If you have, and I know there's Grand Force Brooks and Council tools. I know all of those things are out there. The thing with an axe is, or a hatchet, if you break it, the handle in a bush, and you will, you can't replace it very readily because you need a wedge. It has to be a certain shape, and it's really difficult to create that in a survival situation. All right, so this, I can't break it. Again, I know you can get a really good edge on it. As I said, I know there's better things out there, a lot more expensive. This is maybe $60, $70, and some of the other brands I've mentioned, you're paying $200, $300 for them. That said, let's talk about a tomahawk. Now, a tomahawk, it's a crossover. They're actually a fighting tool. Can you use them, for chopping? Yes. Were they used in Vietnam? Yes, but they actually came on when they would airdrop supplies on pallets out of aircraft. A hatchet would be attached to it so they could cut the metal bands that was holding the materials on the pallet, and that's really what that was for. And so some guys, after that would put them in their belt. But again, it's a fighting tool that can be used as a chopping tool. But the advantage of it is that the handle is round, and the diameter at the lower end where you hold it is smaller than that at the top. So this is so simple to recreate in the bush. You have an advantage there in terms of being able to replicate a handle pretty easily as opposed to shaping an axe handle. The other thing is that you can remove it and you can use it like an ulu for skinning and other things, okay? So it does have some advantages, but understand it's really not, a chopping tool. Now, this is something kind of outside the box. I found this at a yard sale, and this is really old carbon steel, nice weight at the front of it. It's obviously a cleaver, that you would use in butchering and things like that, but it actually makes a really compact, nice little chopper. If you're building a shelter or looking for some, making some kindling and things like that, it's actually easier to wield and control than a hatchet or something like that. And it has a nice, oak handle on it, and it's, that old school nostalgic thing for me. So there are many options that you have. Remember, you want to stay as light as you can and carry what you need. But I have to tell you that, as I said, probably the most dangerous thing that you can use in the bush is, sorry, Dexter just grabbed something there, is absolutely an axe or, something like that. So think that over. Again, it's Jimmy Bremner. Come up, up. And Dexter on the Urban Trail. CTOA, Jimmy Bremner. I'm out.